Pam Scott Radio Productions.
Welcome to the KPIP Players in association with the Eldon Area Community Theater production of an original work, Oh, Charlie, What Have You Done?, produced by David Holman and written and directed by Tammy Witherspoon. Good evening and welcome to our show, Rural Mysteries and Controversies. As usual, we will use reenactments where needed. Tonight we're going to visit northeast Missouri. The time is early October 1961. Amy Lynn Barkland vanishes after taking her baby daughter Sherry Marie to her mother Raylene's house in Moberly, Missouri. Raylene would later declare her daughter missing 3 days later, and it would be 2 weeks before authorities would have a clue about what happened to her. When the truth came out, it was a horror story that few involved could have imagined. The community to this day is still haunted by what happened, and mystery surrounds the circumstances. Before Raylene Crawford died in 1987, she talked to a local newspaper. During the interview, she expressed doubt that the whole story was known or would ever be known. We begin our program tonight with a voice from beyond the grave. In 1977, during renovations to the farmhouse where Amy and her husband Charlie lived, a journal was found beneath some floorboards in the bedroom. It belonged to Amy and was a journal she had been keeping since their daughter was born. The entry was dated October the 2nd, 1961.
Baby girl, I'm so sorry Daddy and I are putting you through this. I know you're confused and must think something really bad is happening. I know it's been a long time since you've heard anything but angry voices. I hope you will read this when you're old enough to understand. Your daddy is not a bad man. He's a weak man. That's why we can't be a family anymore. No matter what happens, I want you to know that we both love you and want the best for you. Tomorrow you will go to Grandma's house until we've worked out what we're going to do. I never want you to hear angry voices again. We will still be your parents and we will make sure that you're taken care of. Sherry, I used to believe in fairy tales. I used to believe that I would find my prince. For a while, I thought Daddy was a prince, but he's not. He's just a man with feet of clay. I promise I will never read you fairy tales, my baby. They're not worth the pain when the fairy tale ends.
The following recreation is from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barkland, dated May 21st, 1962.
Mr. Barkland, did you love your wife? Would you say you had a good marriage?
I've never denied that we had our problems. I was 14 when I first saw Amy, and I knew right then I was going to marry her. She had the most haunting, beautiful eyes I'd ever seen. They were amber or sea green or gray depending on the light you caught her in. I got tongue-tied and felt like I was going to faint every time I saw her. I know she was too good for a poor boy like me, but I just knew I was going to marry her, sure as I knew I was going to take my next breath. When we were dating, those pretty changeable eyes would be full of laughter. She'd giggle at every silly thing I did and say, "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" When I went down on a knee and pulled out a tiny little ring, those eyes were full of tears and she whispered, "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" The look in those eyes changed over the years. Worry when I lost job after job. "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" Anger when I missed my baby girl being born. "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" Grief when she realized I was messing around. "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" And finally, worst of all, resignation when I told her another lie. "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" That look in a woman's eye can tear a man apart, make him feel like nothing, makes him do stupid things. I admit I gambled, I admit I fooled around, I admit I broke her heart, but I did not kill my wife. What happened was an accident. It was never meant to happen.
You say you loved your wife and did nothing more than break her heart. Under questioning by Sheriff's Deputy Charlie Riddell, you confessed to putting your wife's body into a barrel, taking it to Wycliffe Lake, and dumping it in Freeman Cove during the early hours of October 4th. So please do explain why you would do that if you had nothing to do with your wife's murder.
I panicked. We panicked. People knew about Cheryl and me. They knew we were seeing each other. I knew it would look bad.
You are referring to Cheryl Whitley? What exactly was the nature of your relationship with Miss Whitley?
We were lovers. I started a relationship with Cheryl about 3 months before Amy died. She helped us out babysitting when Amy went to work for her shifts at Paisley's restaurant. We sort of fell into it.
You just fell into it? Mr. Barkland, was Miss Whitley your first affair?
No, I'm not proud of it, but there was one other time. Amy knew about it, and she forgave me.
And did she forgive you this time?
No, she didn't. Amy caught us kissing in her kitchen, and I guess she had enough. She didn't even sound mad, just tired. She told me to pack a bag, and I had 5 minutes to get out. She told Cheryl to get out of her house immediately. I couldn't argue, and Cheryl was crying and saying she was sorry. We left. I went to my brother Pete's house, and Cheryl went to her mom's house.
She threw you out. And yet you and Miss Whitley were both in the house when you say this accident occurred. What exactly happened the night your wife died, Mr. Barkland?
I needed to go get some more clothes from the house. Amy called and told me she took our daughters to her mother's house. I knew she had a shift at the restaurant that evening, so I decided to go get some things. Cheryl wanted to come with me, and I didn't see to think it wouldn't matter.
You are aware that Miss Whitley has testified under oath that she wasn't with you when you went home. She said she stayed home and you called her later, crying and insisting you needed her to help you. She testified it took her almost 20 minutes to walk to your house. Why would Miss Whitley lie?
She's scared. I'm scared. Wouldn't you be? She was there. She knows what really happened.
Tell us, Mr. Barkland, how did this accident occur? How did your wife end up stuffed in a barrel?
I started packing up some of my stuff in a pillowcase in the living room, and Amy suddenly walked in. She didn't even wait for an explanation. She just started screaming at me. Amy never was a fighter the whole time we were married, but this time she ran upstairs calling me and Cheryl words I didn't even think she knew. The next thing I knew, she started throwing things down the stairs at me. She threw the rest of my clothes down and my bowling ball and my beer mug I got from St. Louis. Every time she threw something, it was like she got madder. Cheryl ran to the kitchen and I begged Amy to stop, to calm down. Amy came running out of the bedroom with my dad's old 44, and I thought she was going to shoot me, but she just threw it at me. Her feet must have slipped and she started to fall.
Damn you, Charlie! How could you do that to us?
Amy!
How could you do that to our family? I loved you. We'll never again.
Amy!
Never, ever again.
Amy! 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 And then she was at the bottom of the stairs, all crumpled up in a heap. Her neck had a weird angle, blood coming out of her nose and mouth, and her eyes were wide open.
And then what happened?
I think me and Cheryl went crazy. We didn't know what we were going to do when Cheryl started screaming when she saw Amy. This is what happened as best I can remember it. Cheryl, for the love of heaven, quit that crying and come help me. We've got to get this cleaned up.
I just can't stand this. I swear I don't know how I'm going to live through this. And that bleach is making me sick. I gotta get out of here.
Baby, I'm sorry, but this has happened and we've got to take care of it. There's no going back for us, either of us. Just quit crying and get the other mop.
Charlie, what are we going to do? People are going to find out. We're in a lot of trouble. They're going to know something is wrong when Amy doesn't pick Sherry up or doesn't go to work. They are going to think we did something. Where can we hide?
We're not going to hide. We're going to hide her. And then you and I are going to head to Arizona to my cousin Roy's. Everyone in town has been whispering about us. We'll say we wanted to get away from all that and we left a couple of days ago. Pete's on the road and you haven't been seen by anyone, have you?
No, but what are we going to do with her? If they find her, we'll be the suspects. You know we will.
We'll take it to the lake. It's a big lake. There's a dirt road off of Emerson Road where all those abandoned cabins are. There's a cove where the water goes real deep, just right offshore. Boats never go in that cove because the rocks are so bad in places. Hardly anyone goes there anymore. It's all woods, ticks, chiggers, and flies. There's a barrel out in the shed. She'll fit in there.
Oh my God! You're gonna put Amy in a barrel? And how do you know about that cove? I've lived here all my life, and I didn't know about it.
It was my dad's favorite place to fish. And Amy and I used to go, well, we spent a lot of time out there when we were first married.
I don't want to know anything about that. God, Charlie, that is sick.
Do you have a better idea? Because if you do, you better speak up. What to do? Do you think we can call the cops that believe us? Do you think the folks in town will believe us, Cheryl? This might be our only chance.
Okay. We'll do it your way. Just don't be so mean to me, Charlie. I can't help being upset.
I know, baby. Let's get this over with. I need you to go upstairs and get a sheet out of the closet. There's the boat. I knew it would still be there. Something about this nightmare had to go right. Come on, get out. Help me carry this barrel.
Charlie, I don't know that I can. I'm feeling sick and I don't know how this is going to help anything.
I don't care how sick you feel. We are going to do this, and you have to help me. What do you want, Cheryl? You want to go back to the house and call the sheriff? You think that we can talk our way out of this? Quit that blabbering and help me lift this barrel out of the truck.
Oh my God, Charlie! It's getting away! Do something! It's gonna hit the rock! Charlie, are you okay?
Ow. Just a nosebleed. You'll be okay, Cheryl. Come on. Lift this into the boat. Just 20 more minutes, baby. Just 20 more minutes, and we can get away from all this.
Are you saying there was someone else there that night?
I'm not saying that. Cheryl said it. She was convinced of it. She said there was a man watching us from the shore. She kept telling me how spooky his singing was.
I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm telling you, there was a man watching us. It was a big old shadow, and it was watching us, and I heard this creepy laughter and humming. Someone's here, Charlie. I know there is.
I haven't heard or seen anything like that. The forest is always scary in the dark, and we've got a lot to be scared of now. Come on, honey. All we've got now is each other. We need to go and pray to God we catch a break.
I'm sorry, Charlie. I really am. I can't believe this happened.
I didn't believe her about the man then. I thought it was nerves. But I believe her now. God knows I do.
During Cheryl Whitley's trial for conspiracy after the fact, while she disputed that she was in the house when Mrs. Barkland died, she verified the rest of Barkland's story: the barrel, the lake, and the man on the shore watching. Cheryl repeatedly said she didn't realize what Charlie was capable of, and she was lucky he hadn't killed her.
So, Miss Whitley, you admit to helping clean up after the murder. You admit to helping shove your friend into a barrel. You admit to taking that barrel to the lake and dumping your friend into an area of deep water. Why would you do that if she was your friend?
I loved him. I thought I loved him. It felt like I couldn't be with him. I was going to die. It didn't start out like that. He was just someone I'd known for most of my life. He was always nice to me. Then it changed. I didn't mean for it to happen. I wouldn't have hurt Amy for the world. She was always good to me, and I thought I wouldn't hurt her if she didn't know. I just wanted to be with him.
You admit you don't have any trouble lying. Can you explain why you decided to go to Arizona?
Charlie has a cousin there, and we wanted to be able to say that we were out of the state when Amy went missing. Except, things didn't go right. The truck kept breaking down, and when we got to Tempe, his cousin wasn't around. We didn't have much money and had to rent a cheap hotel room. It smelled awful, and Charlie wasn't saying much to me. All he wanted to do was drink beer and stare at the wall. He slept most of the time, and he either was snoring or calling for Amy in his sleep. Even though she was dead, he wanted her more than he wanted me. I kept looking at him and wondering why I thought that I loved him. He wasn't worth ruining my life over. And yet, I knew, no matter what happened, my life was surely ruined. He wasn't who I thought he was. How could I have known what was going to happen?
Miss Whitley, do you think it's a normal response to help someone you love put a body in a barrel and dump it in a lake?
I don't know why I did that. It just seemed like I had to do it. He didn't force me. He got mad at me once and slapped me. But he didn't really force me to do anything. I just didn't think there was any other solution.
The following is an excerpt of a transcript from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barkland. The witness is Deputy Sheriff Charlie Riddell. Riddell was in charge of the investigation of the disappearance of Amy Barkland, and he was the arresting officer of Charlie Barkland and Cheryl Whitley.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help me God.
Deputy Riddell, can you tell us when and how the Sheriff's Department got involved in the disappearance of Amy Barkland?
Well, sir, it was the afternoon of October 5th, 1961. Miss Barkland's mama, Raylene Coffer, came to the Sheriff's Department to see if we could help her. Amy Barkland was supposed to pick up her daughter that morning and didn't show up. Miss Coffer tried to call her and couldn't get an answer. So she drove in from Oberly and went to Paisley's restaurant, where Amy worked, and found out she hadn't shown up for work in 2 days. Miss Coffer was pretty upset. She hadn't been able to find her daughter's husband, Charlie, and said Charlie had been messing around, excuse me sir, having an affair, and Amy had enough of it. I told her it was too soon to file a missing persons report, but I would check around, see if I could find out for her. She said Amy always showed up on time. She was a responsible woman and loved her baby. She knew something was bad wrong. I tried to calm her down, but you could tell she was scared to death. Yes, Miss Coffer was all wound up. She was just sure something bad had happened to her daughter. She said Amy would have walked through fire for her baby, and there's no way she would just leave. I told Miss Coffer I'd look into it.
Did you take Mrs. Coffer's concerns seriously?
Of course I did, sir. I knew Miss Barkley myself from the diner, and she sure didn't seem the type to just disappear. After her mama left, I did some checking around. The first place I visited was the diner, where Miss Barkley was a waitress. It turns out they were worried too. Linda May, the owner of the diner, said she had never missed a day of work or even been late. The other waitress, Katie Larkin, asked if that no good, those are her words, husband Charlie had done something to her. Katie said everyone in town knew he had been caught messing around with Cheryl Whitley. And well, I decided to drive out to Barkland's place to see if there's a problem or a reason why Miss Barkland wasn't answering her phone.
What did you find, Deputy?
Well, sir, it was what I didn't find that set the alarm bells ringing. When I got to the house, I went to the front door and knocked. I announced that I was a deputy sheriff and people worried about her. There was no answer. So I tried the door. It was unlocked. I kept calling her name, but there was no answer. Something definitely wasn't right. It didn't look like a house someone lived in. It was too clean, smelled too strongly of bleach. It made my eyes water. I can't explain it, sir. Something was just off. I started thinking Miss Coffer had a lot to worry about. I then went outside and looked around. There hadn't been a hint of rain for weeks, and I noticed some drag marks in the dust. It looked like someone had been dragged out from the house and to the middle of the driveway. I called the sheriff, John, and told him I didn't think it was going to end well. He told me to keep at it and see what I could find. Miss Coffer told Charlie that Charlie was staying with his brother Pete. I drove to his house to see if Charlie was there. Pete didn't know anything. He's a trucker, sir, and he'd been on the road for about 2 weeks, making it back home. He said Charlie left him a note saying his girlfriend Cheryl were heading to Arizona to see a cousin. Pete didn't think it was sensible, but said Charlie's a grown-up. He had to take care of himself. After that, I interviewed the neighbors, but it was a dead end. The folks there are nice enough, but they keep to themselves. I gotta admit, I didn't have any other leads for several days. And we had a busy week with the festival at Moberly and all the folks coming to town. There was only 4 of us to patrol the whole county.
What happened to change that?
The Grunzett boy brought his uncle Harlan Becker to town to get some groceries about a week after Miss Barkley went missing. Old Harlan was an old-time squatter at those old fishing cabins by the lake. He didn't bother anyone. He just drank, chewed tobacco, and tried fishing. After getting his groceries, Harlan came over to the sheriff's department carrying one woman's white shoe with a low heel. Harlan said that the night of the 3rd or 4th, he couldn't quite remember, which he heard a woman crying in the woods behind the cabins. He said he went running outside to see if he could help, but he was pretty lit up and ended up falling and rolling down the embankment next to the water. He passed out and didn't wake up till next morning. Harlan said once he made up the embankment, he found the white shoe right next to his steps, so he figured the crying woman was real. Harlan thought maybe that woman might need some help out there in the woods.
Was he able to give you any other details?
No, sir. Like I said, we were lucky to get what we got out of him. Harlan didn't make much sense when he was sober, and he wasn't sober often. I decided to take the shoe to Miss Coffer in Moberly to see if it was her daughter's. She recognized it immediately. It was her shoe. She loaned it to Amy, Miss Barkley, to match her white dress when the baby was christened. When I got back to the office, I told the sheriff and he decided that we needed to organize a search party and go through the woods at the lake. And that was a lot of acreage to cover, but we had to put it on hold though. The dry spell came to an end with some of the worst thunderstorms and flooding this county had seen in years. I drove out the cabin to see Harlan could tell us anything else. I found him dead, face down on a moldy couch, almost 20 empty beer cans on the floor around him.
The following is an excerpt of a transcript from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barklin.
Seemed like we'd been in that hotel in Tempe for an eternity, and it was hotter than hellfire. All it needed was a flame and it'd be hell. And Cheryl had two speeds. She was either historical or she was sullen. And I got to the point that I didn't care either way.
What made you decide to return to Missouri, Mr. Barklin?
Every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing Amy, eyes wide open, staring at me. I could hear her say over and over again, "Oh, Charlie, what have you done?" And I kept seeing us trying to fit her into the barrel, twisting her this way and that. There was one detail I couldn't make out, though, and it was an important one. I couldn't remember if I drilled holes in the bottom of the barrel or not. As a body rots, it gives off gas. If I didn't drill the holes at the bottom, the barrel was going to come right up to the surface. I was sure I had. I thought. I wouldn't have forgotten that detail, would I? Just when I started to obsess about that one very particular important detail, Cheryl came running in.
Oh my God! Charlie, I just called my mama and I think we are in bad trouble. She said a deputy sheriff stopped by yesterday and asked her some questions. He wanted to know where we were. He told her he had an eyewitness who saw Amy out at the lake crying. She said they were going to search the woods behind those old cabins. Charlie, why would someone say that they saw Amy out there? She's never out there. But, oh God!
We've got to go back. If they're going to search the woods, they might decide to drag the lake. I don't think they'll go out as far as the cove, but if the barrels has somehow come to the surface, God knows who will find it.
You said that wouldn't happen. Why would it happen? Charlie, why would that barrel come to the surface?
Because I can't remember whether I put holes in the bottom of the barrel or not. I was sure I did, but now I'm not so sure. There was so much going on, Cheryl. I just can't see it in my head whether I did or not.
Oh my dear God, you told me it would sink so deep that nobody would find it. Well, you go back and check. I don't need to go back. I don't want to go back there. If we go back there, they're going to catch us, Charlie. They're going to send us to the gas chamber. I'm scared, Charlie.
What are we going to do, Cheryl? We're out of money. We've got no way to get more, and we are out of luck. We've just got enough cash to buy the gas to get back home. How far do you think they'll go? Get packed up. We've got one chance left. If they can't find the body, it's going to be a lot harder for them to put us in the gas chamber.
Charlie, I'm tired, and I'm scared all the time. I can't sleep. It was an accident. Don't you think we should just tell the truth? They won't put us in the gas chamber for an accident, will they?
Nobody cares about the truth, baby. And we put her in the barrel. How is anyone going to believe us after doing that? Go on, grab a shower and then get packed up. We're heading out in an hour.
The following is an excerpt from the testimony of Deputy Sheriff Charlie Riddell at the trial of Cheryl Whitley.
I testified at the trial of Charlie Barklin. The sheriff and I decided it would be a good idea to put some pressure on Cheryl and Charlie. We wanted to pinpoint where they were exactly. We knew it was somewhere in Arizona, but it wasn't at his cousin's house because his cousin's in jail. We knew Cheryl was real close to her mama, so I decided it'd be good to if she's going to contact anybody, it'd be her. I dropped by Cheryl's house and asked her mama a few questions about Cheryl and Charlie, when they'd be back. She said she didn't know and she was mad about it. That lady for sure did not like Charlie Barklin. She asked if we found Miss Barklin yet, so I let slip we had an eyewitness who saw Amy at the lake, and a search party was being put together to search the woods behind the cabin. She sure wanted to know more about that. She even offered me another cup of coffee. I obliged her. She makes a good cup of coffee. I even let her know we might be searching the area. Sarah Whitley was sure interested in hearing that.
The following is an excerpt of a transcript from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barklin.
Cheryl bawled all the way back to Missouri, and the sky opened up and wailed right along with her. By the time we hit Columbia, I was sure we had our own tornado following us. We made it back in the middle of the worst thunderstorm I believe I've ever seen. Pete wasn't home, and I didn't want anyone to know he had visitors. So I hid the truck in the barn. It was a good thing, too, because the police car kept cruising up and down the old dirt road. I felt like we were being stalked. Cheryl wanted to go see her mama, but I told her that they'd be watching the house. It was cold and dark and rainy, and we were totally alone except for that one police car just driving up and down the road. We were already in jail.
The following is an excerpt from testimony given by Deputy Sheriff Charlie Riddell at the trial of Cheryl Whitley.
Deputy, do you expect Charlie Barkland and Cheryl Whitley to come home?
No, sir, I did not. Why, that would have just been stupid. I thought they were on the run. Why would they take a lot of work? It would take a lot of work to catch them. I thought the best we could do is find Amy Barkland out there in the woods. I just had a couple officers watching Pete's house just in case. I didn't expect what happened at all. It shocked the heck out of me.
The following is an excerpt of a transcript from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barkland.
It finally stopped raining. I waited until about it got dark and I hadn't seen the car go by for a while, and decided it was as good as any time as any. Cheryl was all curled up like a baby when I woke her up.
You think we're going to find her, Charlie? With all that rain and wind, if she was floating, she could be on the other side of the lake by now.
We can't think like that, honey. I'm hoping she's still at the bottom of the lake. I'm hoping I drilled those holes. Come on, baby, let's get this over with.
The following is an excerpt from the capital murder trial of Charlie Barkland.
Deputy Riddell, can you explain to the jury what happened the night of October 23rd?
I'll do my best, sir. Well, I thought Charlie Barkland and Cheryl Whitley might try to come home. I talked to Charlie's brother, Pete, and Barkland didn't have any money, and I don't believe Cheryl did either. There was a chance they'd come home to family for help. So I got a couple officers from the local police department to help me out. When they were off duty, one patrolled the road and one was in plain clothes. Pete Barkland's place was at the dead end of a road, and there was only one way in and one way out. The week of the 23rd, Pete went back on the road, and there was only on the road, and then the night of the 23rd, Officer Kelvin Rogers pretended to be fishing on the bank of a creek a little ways up from the road, from the Barklands. He had a lamp and kept fishing right after dark. He said all of the sudden, he heard a pickup truck fire up, and he saw a set of headlights coming down the road. He said it was a man and a woman, and they even waved at him as they went by. He watched them, and instead of turning right to go into town, they turned left, which is back to the lake. He contacted Officer David Burks, who contacted me, and I told him to stand down. I picked the couple up at the lake. I was already there, and we were going to conduct a search in the morning. I was getting the gear ready.
Why didn't you pick them up immediately?
I wanted to see what they were up to. At this point, we didn't know what happened to Amy Barkland. I thought maybe they would lead me to her. I hid the car behind the trees. It was muddy, a mess. About 15 minutes later, I heard the vehicle, but it took another 15 minutes before it got to the cabins. That old truck kept getting bogged down in the mud, and Barkland was having a heck of a time getting unstuck. I heard him cussing. I even saw him trying to dig out the front tire. Miss Whitley wasn't being much help. He got the tire unstuck and then fell face down the mud trying to get back up. Well, they finally stopped by the old fishing cabins and got out.
And what were they doing at the cabins?
I wasn't sure at first. Then I saw Barkland light a couple of kerosene lanterns. I saw him go behind the old cabin Harlan used to squat in, and came back dragging an old fishing boat. I couldn't feature that. With all the rain, the lake was dangerously high. I couldn't believe they were going to go for a boat ride, but I heard everything.
You were going to get us killed. I'm not getting in that thing. Look at the water and how high it is.
Well, you can take a chance in the boat or you can die in the gas chamber. You choose.
I hate you, Charlie. I don't know how I ever thought that I loved you.
Right at this moment, honey, The feeling is mutual, but we're stuck together. Come on, get in.
They were paddling around on a flooded lake looking like their boat was going to tip over any second. The wind picked up and they were using flashlights and kerosene lanterns for light. It was obviously they were looking for something. They made to get just about the middle of the cove.
Charlie, look over there against the shore. It's caught between the trees and that big rock.
Oh my God, okay. We're going to have to get out there. We're going to do this slowly. The rocks near the shoreline are big and jagged. That's why hardly anyone comes out to this cove. Cheryl, you keep the light steady so I can see what I'm doing.
I couldn't see much at all when they made it across the cove, just the lights and shadows. It looked to me like one of the shadows was wrestling with something out of a rock formation.
You're going to have to get out of the boat and get that barrel out. I'll hold onto the rock. Charlie, what is it? Are you okay? Where are you?
I'm fine, just a rock I didn't see sliced open my knee. Just don't let go.
The sun was just coming up as they moved back across the cove, and I can see there was a barrel in the boat. I hid behind a tree and could see them clearly. It was a good thing sound carries across the water. I could hear everything Barkland said. He told Miss Whitney that they need to get the barrel back to his brother's property. He said they boarded up a well in the back 40 acres and no one had used it for years. I heard him tell her that they would have to know where it was to have a chance of finding it.
Just help me get this done and we'll decide what we're going to do. We'll need to get some money.
I'll help you one more time. But after this, we are done. I'm going to my mama's, and we are not ever going to see each other ever again. Charlie, I didn't do anything. I was just there. You said you didn't do anything, so why are we doing this? We can tell them.
Don't. I told you, baby, the last thing people are going to believe is the truth. Just get this done, and then you do what you want to do.
The next few minutes were some of the strangest things I believe I've seen. There was Charlie all muddy and bloody trying to roll a barrel uphill, with Miss Whitley just giving orders behind him. He got away from him twice and rolled back to the shore. He went right back to it. Almost had to admire how determined he was. He finally got up to the truck and she had to help him lift it in. She slipped and ended up being just as muddy as he was. But they finally got it done.
Why did you let them go?
I didn't let them go. I knew where they were going. I knew they were going to get stuck a couple more times before they would be able to get out of there. I called the sheriff's department, advised them of the situation, asked them to meet me at Pete Barkland's place. I waited about 10 minutes and I followed behind, making sure they couldn't see me. It all happened pretty much the way I expected. Mr. Barkland turned into the drive and didn't see the officers at first. When he did, he hit the brakes hard. By that time, I was right behind him.
What's the problem, officer?
Well, look what we got here. Hello, Charlie. Hello, Cheryl. I've been looking for you two. I've been looking for your wife, too. Her mom was worried, and her baby misses her. Looks like you were busy last night at the lake. What's in the barrel, Charlie?
Nothing except some old tools I thought Pete could use. They were stored at one of the fishing cabins.
You mean to tell me you went clear across a flooded lake in the middle of the night to get some tools? Yeah, Charlie, I was out there watching you. You might have to change your story. I'm waiting, son. Cat got your tongue? Officer Burks, will you put these two in cuffs and put them in the back of my car? I guess we'll wait for the sheriff and the forensics to get here.
Wait, it's not what you think.
Well, I hope not, because I think your wife's body's in that barrel, and that'd be a heck of a thing. I don't know your wife well, but she waited on me at Presley's a time or two. She always gave me extra ice cream with my pie. I hate to think that pretty lady's inside that ugly old barrel.
It wasn't our fault!
Cheryl, don't say another word. You're not helping anything. Just keep quiet. We'll do our talking when I have a lawyer.
Bert's put Miss Whitley in the back of his car, and I put Barkley in the back of my car, and we waited. It took another half hour, but the sheriff and forensics team from the Highway Patrol arrived. That's when things got interesting, in a bad way. We got that barrel pried open. The first thing was the smell.
Okay, boys, let's get this barrel out of here. Boy, it sure is heavy. Someone get me a hammer. Shut up and fight. Oh my God.
That's not my wife. That's not Amy. Oh my God, who is that woman? That's not my wife. I didn't do that. We didn't do that. I swear this is a mistake. It's all a mistake.
Oh, Charlie, what have you done? What have you done?
Well, a bunch of people couldn't take it. Smells takes over everything. Gets in your clothes and hair. There's nothing else like it. You can taste it in the back of your throat. There's a woman's body stuffed in the barrel like a pretzel. Decomposition was already pretty far along. We could see the long, reddish, brown, blonde hair, and there was a garret around her throat. Whoever put her in there had to really work at it. We got Charlie and Cheryl out of the cars and brought them down to the scene. Charlie took one look at the body and just collapsed and threw up. Cheryl started screaming. It's the kind of scream that seems like it gets inside you, travels up your spine. It spooks me, and I don't spook so easily.
Oh, Charlie, what have you done? What have you done?
Well, sir, that's when things went to hell after that, part of my language. We knew Barklin was probably right. The woman in the barrel was not Amy Barklin. By the state of decay, the woman had been dead longer than Miss Barklin had been missing. Things pretty much messed up after that. We requested more help from Highway Patrol to search the property, and it took Charlie and Cheryl back to the sheriff's department and interviewed them separately over a period of 12 hours. And things went from bad to worse.
How many times do I have to tell you I don't know anything about that woman in the barrel? I didn't do anything to her. I told you it was a mistake. I know you won't believe me, but it was all a mistake, and things just kept getting worse and worse.
So you went to the lake at the middle of the night in dangerous conditions and just happened to pick up a decaying body in a barrel and decide to bring it back with you to your brother's farm.
I know what it sounds like.
What happened to your wife, Miss Barklin, or Mr. Barklin? Your mother-in-law has been in hell for weeks. Give her some peace. Give yourself some peace. Is Amy dead or alive?
She's dead. But I didn't kill her. It was an accident. We were living apart, and I went to my house, and Cheryl came with me. I thought Amy was at work, and I wanted to get some clothes. We hadn't been in the house but a few minutes when Amy walked in. I didn't think I had seen her that mad before. She was yelling and throwing things at both of us. Cheryl ran into the kitchen and Amy ran upstairs. She was throwing all my things at me and down the stairs, and I didn't know what was happening. She slipped and tried to catch herself on the banister, but couldn't. I couldn't be there in time to help her. I know it only took a few seconds, but it seemed like it lasted for hours. She cracked her head on the banister and then rolled down the stairs. When she came to the stop, her head was twisted right at the weird angle, and her eyes were wide open and staring. There was blood coming out of her nose and mouth. I knew she was gone.
Why didn't you call for help? The mother of your child is laying broken at the bottom of the stairs, and it didn't occur to you to call for help?
I panicked. I knew no one would believe me. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I just wanted to make it go away.
Make it go away? How do you make it go away, Mr. Barklin?
I thought if I could hide the body so no one would find it, they might think Amy got sick of the whole situation and left. I wasn't thinking clearly. Whether anybody believes it or not, I loved Amy. We'd spent a lot of years together. Seeing her like that just broke me.
And what part did Miss Whitley play in this?
She didn't play any part. I told you she was in the kitchen when it happened. She heard all the noise and came running in and saw the mess. She helped me clean up and with the rest and...
What did you mean by the rest? What did you do?
My mind was racing. I must have thought of 3 or 4 different ideas. I thought maybe we would throw her in the old well on the back 40 acres. But then I thought you might find that well if you searched the property. Then I remembered I had an old barrel in the barn. I read those true crime magazines, and I remember a story about a guy murdering his mother-in-law and putting her in a barrel. He drilled holes in it so she wouldn't float to the top, and then he threw the barrel into a pond on someone else's property 20 miles away. In the story, they didn't find the body until the guy was old and in the nursing home. I thought it might work, and I knew the lake so well.
You expect me to believe that an innocent man wouldn't call for help, but would ask his girlfriend to help clean it up, and then shove his dead wife into a barrel? You're asking a lot, Mr. Barkland.
I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm telling you what the truth is. I know it's hard to believe. I know that I'm in a lot of trouble. But that's what happened. God knows. If I could take everything back, I would.
I don't care what Charlie said. I wasn't in the house when the accident happened. He called me after it happened. He didn't tell me what happened. He just sounded so upset. And he said he needed me. So I walked over there. When I entered the house, she was at the front of the stairs and there was blood on her face. Oh God, her eyes were open. I told him we needed to call someone. He said everyone in town knew about us. He said if I didn't help him, we'd both be arrested for murder. I tried to get the phone, but he grabbed me and shook me and told me to grow up.
And you still went along with it? You helped him clean up the blood and mess? You helped put your former friend inside a barrel, and he said you helped take that barrel to the lake and sink it. Then you took off for Arizona. It sounds like you didn't have to do much to convince you.
I loved him. I thought I loved him. I believed when he said it was an accident. You believe the people you love, don't you? Don't you?
Ma'am, I don't know many people who put a dead body in a barrel for love.
You think he murdered Amy, don't you? You think he murdered that other woman too?
I don't believe in coincidences. And grabbing the wrong barrel just happened to have a body in it is one heck of a coincidence.
There was someone else at the lake when we took Amy out there. I heard him. He was humming some creepy sounding song and I heard him laughing. I think that he was watching us. I told Charlie, but he didn't believe me. There was something in those trees.
That might have been old Harlan Becker. He's an old drunk that squatted in one of the cabins. He said someone was crying that night. Too bad he passed.
You mean he's dead? That seems kind of strange, doesn't it? If he was out there, maybe he killed that other woman.
I doubt that. He's a feeble old man. He's blind drunk most of the times. When I found him there was enough beer cans to build a shed. No, Miss Whitley, Cheryl, I think we got the right man. I think we're lucky we found you when we did. Charlie doesn't seem to have much luck with women.
You didn't get a confession from either one of them?
No, sir. They disagreed on whether Cheryl had been at the death scene the whole time, but the rest of their stories were right on point. They both confessed to cleaning up the crime and working together to put the body in the barrel, taking her to the lake and dumping her in the cove. They both said that they had no idea the woman in the barrel they had with them was at Pete Barkland's place.
Did Mr. Barkland explain to you why they decided to come home from Arizona?
There are 2 reasons. The first one was they were flat out broke. And that maybe I had something to do with the second reason. I paid a visit to Miss Whitley's mother and asking if she'd heard anything from Cheryl. I kind of let her know we'd be conducting the search of the woods behind the cabins. Apparently when Cheryl called her mama, Miss Whitley told her about the search. Or Mr. Barkland told me that they're already second-guessing himself about whether he drilled holes in the bottom of the barrel or not. That little bit of information pushed him over the edge, and Miss Whitley said he insisted on coming back the second he heard about it.
Can you explain to the jury what happened after you interviewed the two suspects?
I have never seen the sheriff so worked up. Felt like we were under siege. Once the press got wind of the story, someone in the office must have leaked it to the press right away. They even had national news outside our doors by the next morning. We had a dead body in a barrel who was not Amy Barkland. We had no idea who she was. Amy Barkland is still at the bottom of the cove. We need to get her up to the surface. And Charlie and Cheryl didn't know anything about the strange body. We were wondering if another killer was out there. I don't think it was very likely, but something we had to consider. First things first, though, the sheriff contacted the dive team from the Lake of the Ozarks area and to help us retrieve Miss Barkland's body. By the time Cheryl and Charlie had lawyered up, they retained separate attorneys and weren't saying anything. Sir, it took the dive team a couple days to get there. Their main diver was out of state, and when they finally got there, we went to the middle of the cove where Charlie said they had dumped her. They hadn't been down 10 minutes when they got a signal they had found something. Then it became a horror show. There wasn't just one barrel down there, there were 6 more. We brought them to the shore one at a time. Each one contained a body in various stages of decay. One was a total skeleton. The last barrel brought to shore contained the body of Amy Barkland.
You then went back and questioned Cheryl Whitley. What was her reaction?
Shocked, she almost fainted. She could barely get any words out. She sat there white as a sheet and shaking all over. All she could do was whisper, and she had a hard time with that.
I was next, wasn't I? He was going to kill me too. He was lying to me all the time. I thought we loved each other. Oh my God! He killed Amy, didn't he? Can I see my mama? Please, I need to see my mama.
We can't do that right now. First, I need you to write down your statement of what happened and sign it for me. Your attorney can help you with that. After we get things sorted, I think we can get your mom in for a visit. If you work with us, things will go easier on you. You need to talk it over with your attorney.
How did Mr. Barkland react when you told him about the other bodies?
He pretended he was horrified, but he also acted like he was resigned. He just sat there at the table crying. We kept asking him questions, and he kept just saying he had no idea who those other women were. He said he'd being set up, and he was going back to the person Miss Whitley had said she saw at the lake. He kept insisting what happened to his wife was an accident.
It's all over, isn't it? I don't have a chance of anyone believing me. I didn't kill anyone. Amy used to have to kill the chickens to be dressed because I couldn't stand to do it. None of that matters now. I'm as good as dead right now, and I'm innocent.
Our working theory of the case was Charlie's been doing this for the past several years. 2 bodies we got identified disappeared 8 years ago. First 6 women had their hands and feet taped together and were strangled with garrots before being placed in the barrels. They're all from different localities. One disappeared from the University of Missouri in Columbia 3 years ago. Miss Barkland had suffered a broken neck and blunt force trauma to the front skull. The deaths were different, but we believe Charlie hadn't meant to kill Amy. We think he got mad and that she wanted a divorce, so he was going to lose his family and his cover for the other murders. And we believe Cheryl was right. We believe that she was being groomed to be killed, wife or victim. That's the only use he seemed to have for women. He refused to cooperate with us and wouldn't say another word after that.
And you have no doubt in your mind that Charlie Barkland murdered these women.
I'm not a big believer in coincidence, sir. For him to not be the killer, there would have to be another killer using the same exact place to dump those bodies. That area lake is not well known or used. And it had to be someone who knew the area well. The only other person who was at the cabins was Harlan Becker. And that old man could could barely walk, let alone carry bodies around. Mr. Barkland proved himself to be a liar. Cheryl testified about his violence towards her after the death of his wife. Amy Barkland's mother testified that couples would have serious fights. And it all comes back to why an innocent man would stuff his wife's body in a barrel. And then why we would find 6 other bodies stuffed into barrels. Yes, sir, I believe Charlie Barkland killed all 7 of those women.
In August of 1962, Charlie Barkland was convicted of the murder of 7 women. The jury took less than 3 hours to reach a verdict. He subsequently received 7 death sentences. Barkland was stoic at his sentencing and addressed the jurors. "I forgive you," he said. "I would have thought the same thing. Anything else would have been too crazy. It doesn't mean anything now, but I swear I didn't kill anybody, and I did love Amy. There's no help for me, but I'll go to my death knowing I didn't hurt those women." In October of 1962, Cheryl Whitley was sentenced to 25 years for being an accessory to murder. She said nothing at the sentencing. The following is an excerpt from an interview Charlie Barkland gave to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter Bradley McKay in June 1963 from his death row cell.
I'm not blaming anyone for me being on death row. I got myself here. I was stupid and I didn't know when I had it good. I broke the law. I lost everything that mattered to me, and trust me, I am tired. And I think death will be a relief. But I want folks to know there's still a killer out there. I had nothing to do with those other 6 women. There's a lot of inconsistencies in what happened. With Amy, too. I admit to being confused by most of it. But I've had a lot of time to think, and this is one thing that stands out. Amy always went barefoot when she was in the house. You would never see her wearing shoes. When we pulled her in that barrel, she wasn't wearing any shoes. So how could that old drunk find one of her shoes outside the cabin? And who had access to her shoes? I wouldn't have put her shoes there, so who did? I expect you could come up with a lot more questions if you looked into it, but everyone has made up their minds. I know I have to die. So be it. I'm not innocent. Let's hope some other innocents don't have to die.
In a strange twist of fate, Cheryl Whitley died before Charlie Barkland. 3 days before Christmas of 1963, Cheryl was found dead in her cell. She worked in the laundry and stole a pair of scissors. She cut both wrists and bled out. Her roommate was a deep sleeper, and her body was not discovered until the 3 a.m. bed check. She left a note begging forgiveness from her mother. She said she hoped that there wasn't a heaven because she never wanted to wake up again. Charlie Barkland's execution was set for May 25, 1965. He was set to die at midnight. Barkland asked his attorney not to file another appeal. He stated he was ready to die, though he did have one request. He wanted a meeting with Charlie Riddell, who is now the county sheriff. Riddell was contacted by Barkland's attorney and agreed to the meeting, which was set for May 23, 1965. It would be hard to speculate what the 2 men had to say to each other, since Sheriff Riddell never talked about the meeting.
Hello, Charlie. I'd like to say you're looking well, but that would be a lie.
You are the sheriff now, I hear.
Yep, the old man never recovered from seeing all those bodies. We pulled out of the lake. He decided it was time to retire and threw his support at me for the next election.
One man's misfortune is another man's gold. You gonna come watch me suffocate?
What do you want, Charlie? You want to finally come clean? I'll take your confession. It's always best to meet your maker with a clean soul.
How about I take yours? Except there is no way your soul's gonna be clean. I know it was you. I knew it was you the day I got sentenced. You were humming that spooky song Cheryl said she heard you humming in the lake. It was you watching us, wasn't it? You said you didn't believe in coincidences, but I'm betting you loved that one. And that old man didn't hear anyone crying or find a white shoe. You set him up so you would have a reason to be at the lake. It's funny how he ended up dead, too, so no one could question him.
Being in here made you stir crazy, Charlie. Are you hallucinating?
For a man who doesn't like coincidences, there's an awful lot around you. Come on, Sheriff. It's just you and me. Who's going to believe me? The people who are going to kill me in a few hours? Come on, Charlie. Don't you want to gloat about it? It must be hard keeping those secrets.
You've had a lot of time to think, haven't you? You're smarter than you look.
One piece of the puzzle that's missing. How did you know I'd come back after the barrel? What would you have done if I hadn't come back?
Now, some maybe I'm too quick to compliment your smarts. I wasn't expecting you to come back. In fact, it surprised the heck out of me. But sure had the story, didn't it? It made me look awful smart in front of the jury. They were hanging on every word. It was like a gift from the gods. I still had the barrel. I was going to dump that night. I saw you. Before it rained, I got it out there. I jammed it between those rocks. I'm surprised you were able to budge it out there. I figured it'd take 2 or 3 strong men. I gotta say, you impressed me. When we were combing the woods for Amy, we would come across that stinky barrel and discover the body inside. Realize it wasn't Amy, and of course send divers into the code. It would accomplish the same thing. You two would be fugitives on the run, and I don't think you would have lasted that long. But then you got to wondering about if you drilled holes in Amy's barrel. Which you did, by the way, and you had to come home. I like it better this way, don't you? You had a front row seat, Charlie.
All those lives you ruined, all that misery you caused, it's just a game to you. Don't you feel anything at all? How do you live with yourself?
Oh, come on, you're no saint. Didn't you get a little thrill at watching your wife die? She threw you out. Tell me you didn't enjoy the power you had over Amy.
No, God, no. It made me sick. Seeing the fear in her eyes as she was falling, I wanted to help her. I wanted to make it stop. But it happened so fast, I couldn't do anything. It broke me in two to watch her die. Everything stopped right then. That's when my life ended.
You really didn't kill her, did you? And here I thought you did. I really thought you did. Ain't that something? You're gonna die and you didn't kill anyone. Well, Charlie, I'm glad I came here today. Man, learn something new every day.
You're a sick man. You're not even a man. You're like some monster out of a movie. Someone should put a stake through your heart.
Well, we know it won't be you, don't we? You want me to start boo-hooing? I knew when I was 5 years old I wasn't like anyone else, and it served me well. I'm leaving here today and having a chicken fried steak at Paisley's Diner, going home, smoking a cigar, and drink a beer. 2 days from now, you'll be leaving in a coffin. I won. I live with myself just fine.
Yep. Can't argue that. Tomorrow, about 5, they'll serve me my last meal, and I promise you, I'm going to eat that steak with a good appetite. And I'll drink both of those chocolate milkshakes. And after that, I will go to the Excel and have a good nap. Because I've got an appointment at midnight, Sheriff. When I walk into that gas chamber, I'm going to breathe the gas in just as deep as I can. Just a little pain, and it will all be over for me. But you and me, we'll meet again. All the people you've hurt, all the people you've killed, and I know you are still killing. We are all going to be there waiting for you when you pass. I remember a quote from high school English class. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, Sheriff, we will be cold and hungry. Very hungry. You are going to mess up bad one day and there will be no way out for you. Just like there was no way out for me. I'll see you then, you sad, sick little man.
You're crazy. Charlie, enjoy that steak. Guard! I believe we're done in here.
According to accounts from the guards, Charlie Barklin ate all of his last meal of steak and 2 chocolate shakes, and was actually asleep in his cell when they came for him. As the guards and chaplain escorted Barklin down the corridor, he was abnormally calm. He thanked the guards for their kindness to him. He asked the chaplain not to pray for him, but to say one for his wife and one for his baby daughter. The youngest guard quit the prison 1 week after Barklin's execution. Sheriff Charlie Riddell was indicted for embezzling funds from the jail in 1988 and forcing female prisoners to have sex with him in his office. When they tried to arrest him at his house, he had booby-trapped his office, and as they entered, the room exploded, killing Riddell and 3 officers and wounding 4 other officers. When Sherry Barklin came of age, she was given a letter her father had written her just a few days before his execution.
Dearest Sherry, baby girl, I don't know whether you will ever read this letter, but I had to try. I wanted you to know your mother and I loved you very much. I also want you to know I love your mother. They say I murdered her. I didn't, but I am responsible for her death. And my actions led to the death of Cheryl Whitney. I am not a murderer, but I am also not an innocent man. I will go to my death loving you. Sherry, the first spring after you were born, Amy and I were putting in the garden in the backyard. We laid you on the blanket underneath the big old maple tree. All of a sudden, we heard you giggling and looking over, and you were covered with butterflies. You even had one on your nose. That's why I called you my butterfly girl. You probably don't remember any of that, but I pray God that will be my last thought as I leave this earth. Love, Daddy.
In 2001, a pond 5 miles outside of Kirksville belonging to Charlie Riddell's brother was drained. 4 barrels were found, bodies inside. 2 bodies were identified. Both women went missing after Charlie Barklin was executed. The case was reopened as a cold case, but not as advanced due to all direct witnesses being dead. There is cause to believe Sheriff Charlie Riddell was involved in all of the murders. Thank you for listening to our program tonight, and remember, where mysteries are concerned, there are no clear answers. We leave you with a final word from Amy Barklin's journal.
Sherry Marie, baby, I want you to always promise me you'll be careful with your heart and your body. Sometimes you can't trust your own eyes, and that's just the way it is in this hard old world. Nothing is as it seems.